Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
Alright, so you're not interested in that, and you don't really want to know about that. What you came to watch was Battlefield content. Okay, welcome back to another tactical discussion about Battlefield 6, and in regards to the recent update surrounding this one game. Now, there are some quite interesting developments surrounding Battlefield 6. I did make a post quite a while ago about all of the recent content seen in the labs group. Now, of course, this is all leaks surrounding Season 4 and that content there. Now, I believe Season 4, this development team are expecting to try and re-release the game through Season 4. Okay, if you look at the player count of this game, those are deadly numbers, okay? The player count surrounding Battlefield 6 right now is extremely low, and I do not have any confidence that they can successfully bring back a substantial player base. You're thinking about this AAA title, how much effort, how much time and resources has been put into this one game, and the output and the lack of content that came into this game, in particular that lack in Battlefield DNA, that is the core issue here. And again, I've seen various YouTubers really focusing in on gameplay issues, really trivial problems surrounding gameplay issues. Look, no one gives a shit about gameplay. I'm just gonna be honest. That's not content. This Battlefield Studios, they've made some quite remarkable changes in their behavior in regards to transparency. They've been a lot more transparent with these updates. They seem to provide a lot more regular updates, and it all seems to be around gameplay issues, fixing that, and the general performance of certain weapons and damage models and so on. However, this isn't real content. Again, the number one issue surrounding this one game is the lack of large-scale maps. Okay, there's just no Battlefield DNA in tiny-ass COD maps that this game launched with. We're going to get into that further on, but right now I'd like to touch on a recent interview. Again, this report is coming from Battlefield Bulletin, so please go and check that out, with Vice President and General Manager of Battlefield Studios Europe, Rebecca Cortez. Now, I have featured her on the channel before. You might have remembered that whole fiasco surrounding the DEI video I made. Please go back and watch my content. Now, Miss Cortez has confirmed to Indy 100, a British news website affiliated with The Independent, that Battlefield 6 will continue to be worked on far beyond the end of 2026. When asked if there are plans to work on the game for at least the next 2 years, Cortez said, yes, of course. Now, that part isn't in quotation marks, so I am skeptical of whether or not she actually said that. But moving on, that said, we have a fantastic player community that sets high standards for us. They require bigger maps, more content, and we're solely focused on the players and Battlefield at the moment. Now, again, she has acknowledged the obvious, that this game and its players require bigger maps. Okay, now this game launched in a very terrible state. Okay, the 9 maps that they launched with were not Battlefield maps. They were extremely narrow, condensed, tiny-ass COD maps. That's a problem for this franchise because it's Battlefield. The identity here is large-scale warfare, and they didn't deliver on that at all in any of the maps at launch. Still to this day, and we're talking about a year post-launch almost. We are approaching the anniversary of Battlefield 6. It's quite incredible to think that we've come this far so soon in this game's development. And the game still hasn't provided any substantial content to match the standard of BF3 or BF4. The content that was there on day one is missing in BF6. And this content extends into core elements that should have been in the game day one, from a server browser that actually works, persistent servers, spectator mode, which again launched in BF4 at launch. There's no platoons. Naval warfare is still yet to come into BF6. Commander mode doesn't seem to exist. There is no plans to bring that back. There is still no word on any Levolution style destruction coming into BF6 or any jet specific customizations. Ultimately, the game is still incomplete and is still being built pretty much by the community and their feedback. You listen to what the devs are saying, and we heard your feedback and we want to build Battlefield with you. This isn't good enough. This isn't acceptable. You need to provide a complete game day one, and it needs to meet the standard of the past games we used to have. If they're planning to continuously support this game 2 years post-launch, it really leads you to question what exactly they plan to update this game with. Are they planning to consistently tweak this game's performance for the next 2 years? What exactly does that statement mean? What does that entail? Because clearly they're not going to support the game with much larger content, with bigger maps and more maps. This content pipeline is going to end at some point, and I cannot see them expanding this game further with more maps. Battlefield is a platform, and we announced our roadmap for Season 4 in April. It's a big beast, Battlefield. And again, you look back at these roadmaps, none of the content here is substantial enough. It truly isn't. It's quite shocking, actually. We're talking about 2 maps per season, and it's all drip feed content. None of the maps here are even unique. Most of it's remakes, and it's coming from the past. So how much effort are you actually putting into this content here? And I haven't actually had the time to fully deep dive into Cairo Bazaar, but that map isn't exactly stellar content. I'm just going to be honest. Just looking at it is enough to throw me off. The remake is way more condensed, way more assets on the map. These people don't know how to design maps. There is no breathing space. It's asset constipation consistently with these people. And I've made a video on this in the past in great detail. This environment tends to focus quite heavily on decoration. And again, that's reflective of the culture of the environment. There's a lot more females in this environment. And the thesis of that past video I made was that females love to focus on decoration. That's what they do. And it's missing the real meat of Battlefield. It's completely missing that large-scale open breathing space. None of that is there. The sandbox is missing itself, and this is all a problem. Danny Isaac, a senior producer at Criterion, added, "At the moment, we're all in on Battlefield. It's a wonderful platform for us to showcase our talents. Millions and millions of players are consuming what we've built and having fun. It's about making them feel." Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, you're making us feel pissed off. Okay. Like, the content here is not here. The game is currently being built, and that's not good enough. You know, when I hear the term live service game, it's reflective of this. It's a DIY project that is meant to be built by the community, and drip feed content which doesn't live up to past standards. It cannot match the standards that we used to get by more confident developers. Games which were made with environments solely focused around patriarchal systems which were pushing out competent, fully complete, rich games. I'm proud of players saying to us, "We had this moment in Battlefield and I had so much fun when that happened." And we'll continue to deliver on these kinds of moments going forward. I'm really getting sick of seeing these developers who can barely speak fucking English in these environments. Just what is that about? They just seem to have these freshies in these environments all the time, and none of them can speak English, and none of them seem to understand what they're doing or what they're working on in these projects. It just seems to be a lot of Europeans. It's really strange. Again, the fixation with diversity in these studios is a massive problem. I've highlighted this in a past video of mine. Please go and watch that video. Do not forget this, because this is a core issue in this development team, not just here, but in the industry as a whole. I don't know why every single fucking studio, every single leadership role needs to have a soccer mom in these positions. Looking at Cortez, it's very obvious to me. If I had asked her what the fuck an M4 is, she would probably point to the nearest motorway. Very clearly, she doesn't know what Battlefield is or what it's supposed to be. And yet this woman is a vice president and general manager of Battlefield Studios, and yet the game launched in a completely piss poor state, guys. Remember that. Okay, her priorities, I just made a post about this, were on diversity, and that was during the game's development phase. And you look back at a Q&A with Miss Cortez. How do you foster a supportive and inclusive environment for your team members? And she goes on to say, "I am the first female general manager of DICE. since the studio was created back in '93. And sometimes you only need one change to be able to attract a diversified team. I am very proud of the studio leadership team that we have today because, of course, it's me as a general manager. Okay, who gives a fuck? This is not important in regards to developing a military-style shooter. Okay, this is Battlefield. Okay, we're not supposed to be focusing on diversity, and we need to get women in these environments for the sake of it. Still, we also have our chief of staff who is a woman. Our studio head of creative is a woman. Our director of product development is a woman. And so are a large number of the studio leadership team. And that attracts even more women.
Women.
And I think what's super important also is to have very clear roles, responsibilities, and expectations. When a person doesn't know what to do in a safe environment, that they can say, I don't know how to do this, or to be able to do this. I need this. Okay, so that is very telling of the type of situation in this environment. Okay, again, it's also very clear that this development team, these are all new people. I've highlighted this before, and none of them know what the fuck they're doing. The key problem here is the fact that females will always default back into that same primitive state of they need to be around other females. You see this every single time a female gets into some kind of leadership role. She needs to basically bring in more females for the sake of it, and basically that's sabotaging the project. Again, this is a military shooter, okay? This isn't some fashion project. It's a military game based on male elements, effectively. And this is a major part of the problem because we've got a demographic in here who don't necessarily understand what they're working on, which is the reason why the project is failing and has failed and still does not have the content necessary to support the game. And mistakes are okay. We are creators. To be able to push our innovations and to push our creativity, we take enormous risks. So failure has to be allowed. It cannot be perfect. And sometimes we fail and we go back to the drawing board and we start all over again. Yeah, now that particular sentiment has been echoed before. And again, it's very clear to see that there is a massive dysfunction in the studio. There is no cohesion. It's very obvious. And you look at the state of the game, there is a lack of content. The content that should have been in the game day one isn't. And they're currently building the game now. Again, looking at the current roadmaps from Season 3 onwards for Battlefield 6, the roadmap is basically a public admission that the game is launched without several pieces of that classic Battlefield infrastructure. There's no server browser. Still to this day in the game, there is no persistent servers, platoons, spectator mode, proper naval warfare, rich vehicle tools and stronger community systems are all being added later in the game's lifecycle. And again, while BF4 either had them at launch or had that kind of structure baked into its identity from day one, this is a problem. BF6 isn't just adding content late, it's retrofitting that in the game after it's shipped. This is where I'd like to highlight where we are currently with this game, because BF6 currently as it stands launched with 9 maps. Again, we are approaching the anniversary of this game, a year into this game. BF6 launched with 9 maps, then Season 1 added Blackwell Fields. That map right there was fucking terrible. Okay, I'm not sure what the fuck this map was. And Season 1 also provided Eastwood, which I'm not going to complain too much about that map. Plus modes like Strike Point and Sabotage, a new APC, weapons and attachments. Season 2 added Contaminated, which was a fairly decent map. Not going to complain too much about that. But it also released Hagental Base a month later. Hagental Base was literally part 2 of the first map, Contaminated. And that was the interior spaces of Contaminated. Really lackluster map. Infantry only, okay? Now, a core theme of all of these maps are infantry focused maps. They don't have Battlefield large scale identity in any of these maps. Season 2 also released the Little Bird, Dirt Bike, LTV, a few weapons, gadgets, VL7 smoke event, Nightfall, NVG, gameplay and Operation Auger. None of this is truly unique content. It's either returning content from the past, and it's just substitutional. I have no idea why it was called Nightfall, because it took place during daytime. It was just night vision mode in the interior spaces of Hagenthal base. Essentially, operation mode wasn't really operation mode. It was just exclusive to this one map, and they didn't provide any behemoths. So what the fuck was this? Season 3 added Railway to Goldmud, a returning map. It was a remake of a more competent map from BF4 from the past, described by EA as the biggest map in BF6 yet, which is fucking ridiculous. What is that? It's not a unique map, it's a remake, considering Contaminated was already inspired by Mount Grappa. It also added Cairo Bazaar, which I haven't had the time again to do a proper deep dive on this map, but I don't really want to, because the game is just so focused so heavily on this infantry focused bullshit. It's draining. And of course my PC is yet to be delivered, so I'm still waiting on that, and because I currently cannot play the game. It's just, this game is just way too heavy at the moment, and yeah, my PC is just struggling to run this fucking game. Season 3 also brought along with it ranked RedSec mode, tactical obliteration, new weapons, gadgets and attachments. Season 4 is meant to bring naval warfare back with Suru Reef and Wake Island, both built around naval combat, which is returning basically almost a year into this game's life cycle. Naval combat is coming into this game's life cycle really late, and yeah, it's just unacceptable. Aircraft carriers, new naval vehicles and dynamic wave system are all making a comeback, but again, it's all very late. Now, as of the 8th of July 2026, EA has only confirmed the July launch window, and not that this is all already live. So again, if we put this into perspective, it launched with 9 maps. Okay, Season 1 offered 2 maps with Blackwell Fields and Eastwood. Season 2 provided another 2 maps with some additional content, Contaminated and Hagenthal Base, which honestly is just 1 map split into 2. Season 3 is again 2 maps, which are remakes, while Season 4 is promising a returning naval-focused combat on larger maps, being Suru Reef and a remake of Wake Island for some reason. So ultimately, that is 17 maps in total, and I want to compare this to Battlefield 4's content. If you remember before, I made this really awkward chart which showed you the content which that game offered in comparison to BF6 and just how much you are missing here. Again, I have covered this game in great detail, and you are missing way more than I could fit on the chart. BF4, the launch package was already very strong. Okay, you had 10 maps on launch, 7 modes with a commander mode, proper server browser, vehicles across land, air and sea, including naval maps, large-scale conquest, infantry meat grinders, and real Revolution set pieces. Not to forget, we had dynamic weather systems on these maps. We had maps like Siege of Shanghai, Parasol Storm, Goldmud Railway, Operation Locker, Zavod 1, Flood Zone, Dawnbreaker, Rogue Transmission, Hainan Resort, and Lankan Dam. And that gave the game a wide variety of identity from day one. Okay, then the DLC pipeline hit fucking hard. Okay, China Rising added 4 unique maps, air superiority, new vehicles like the dirt bike and bomber, plus new gadgets. Second Assault brought back 4 fan favorite maps returning from BF3, plus Capture the Flag, 5 remastered weapons and the Dune Buggy. Naval Strike added 4 South China Sea maps. It brought in a hovercraft, new weapons and gadgets, and a carrier assault game mode, which is a reimagining of Battlefield 2142's Titan mode. If you remember, this was a really epic mode between 2 carrier assaults where players would have to board each other's carriers in order to defeat the enemy and take out their MCOMs and blow up the carriers. Dragon's Teeth added 4 urban maps, 5 new weapons, the ballistic shield, chain link mode, and Final Stand arrived just after the exact first anniversary window, adding 4 Arctic maps, futuristic hardware, the snowmobile, the hover tank, and railgun style weapons. So depending on how strict you are, BF4 had either 26 maps by the exact 1-year mark, or 30 maps by the full first year premium cycle. Either way, it was overflowing with content. Okay, the game was booming with unique content. And you compare that to BF6 content on offer, it's just pathetic. It's just pathetic. The game is just drip feeding content and it's just pathetic. What is this? And it's all reflective of the game's culture who are shipping this mess out. Okay, none of the content is here and it's all being drip fed, and the community are actually partaking in this game's development, providing feedback, and this is pathetic. What the fuck is going on? Okay, BF4 felt like a full Battlefield ecosystem expanding outward. BF6 feels like a game still reconstructing that Battlefield formula piece by piece after launch. While again, BF4's first year gave its players deserts, dams, islands, cities, prisons, naval warfare, remastered classics, carrier assault, chain link, capture the flag, commander mode, server browsing, and that huge vehicle warfare sandbox. The BF6 again, meanwhile, launched smaller. It spent most of its early seasons patching holes in scale and identity, and it's only now, through season 3 and 4, starting to reintroduce the things that BF4 already had baked into its bones. And again, that doesn't mean BF6 has no content. It has a decent amount at this point, but if I was to recommend this game to someone, I would say come back in a year's time and the game would be a complete game. It's currently not there yet. It currently feels like a live service drip feed attached to an old man that is consistently being told that the content, the big stuff, is all coming in next season, and is currently doing live streams daily. It's like, it's really fucking sad at this point. But again, looking at the current situation in the labs group, you do see a lot of interesting features there. I'm not gonna lie, there is some unique features there that is quite captivating, much of which I've posted before. We've got what appears to look like a night mod on the game's base maps, from Eastwood to its larger maps, which appear to look like Fort Linden, Manhattan, and the Empire State map. And again, we've got some more exclusive footage of the boat combat, that naval warfare that they've got coming planned for season 4 going forward. Now again, that all does look very interesting, but again, it should have been in the game day one. It's coming into the game very late. We're approaching the game's anniversary, and yeah, the content, we are basically still at where the game launched at. That's what Battlefield 6 currently feels like. It feels like we are still at the game the way it fucking launched day one. Like nothing is in the game yet. It's still taking forever to get into the game. It's very obvious to me that this development team are incompetent and they are just dysfunctional, and it seems as though the men are just doing all of the heavy lifting there in that development team, and they just look fucking exhausted every time I see them. And I don't know what the women do in this studio, but clearly they're not doing enough. And every time I see one of these interviews, it's just lackluster all over the place, and they're gaslighting you. And they're telling you that the content's coming. If I was to put it this way, I would say come back at season 4. That's when they're planning to re-release this game. I'm not expecting it to bring back a substantial amount of players, but that's when we can expect them to essentially try to re-release the game, and expect there to be this whole big marketing and all these fucking YouTubers celebrating this game as if it's Battlefield is finally where it needs to be. And ultimately, that Season 4 won't even save the game, I'm just going to be honest, because even then, you're not guaranteed to see a proper server browser, platoons, spectator mode. All of that doesn't have a proper confirmation date as of yet, and as of right now, YouTubers are just bang on focusing egregiously on gameplay issues and performance, and it's like no one gives a fuck about that shit. I'm sorry, that's all trivial to the experience that they've currently built. The only reason that we are focusing this heavily on gameplay issues currently is because the maps are so condensed that the game is just an infantry exclusive only mess, and that has basically forced the game to expose all of these flaws around hit detection because the maps are so small. When you're playing on smaller maps, all of those problems are basically emphasized. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I shall see you in the next one.